everyone. Before we begin, I want to let you know that this podcast is for informational and inspirational purposes only. The advice and insights shared here are based on my personal experiences and expertise, but they are not a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, or business advice. If you are dealing with a specific issue, please consult a qualified expert. And thanks for watching. On today's episode of Hope, Healing and Transformation, we have a powerful, powerful story. Imagine looking into the eyes of your father's killer and wanting to hate them, but all you find is forgiveness. Mayume's story is one of power, encouragement, forgiveness, and actually love. But it's one that I don't even know if I could go through it. And so today we're welcoming Mayume into the show. She's a medium herself. She's got this incredible story, and I can't wait to share it with you. Mayume, thank you so much for doing this. This is amazing.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Lisa. It is such an honor to be here and to sit and actually chat with you. It's
absolutely lovely. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So you've been a medium. How long have you been a medium? I mean, when did you start seeing spirit? Tell me about this.
Like 7 years old, like little. And it started off with little specks of light that I thought were really cute, like fairies. So it kind of started off nice and gently, and then they became faces and shadows. So at a young age, I was always running to my parents' bedroom because I was so scared. It was all kinds of things. Yeah.
And how did they cope with that? I mean, you know, my parents were often saying to me, the men in white coats are going to come and get you. I mean, my parents were like not embracing it.
No, yeah. Well, when I have a Vietnamese mother who never said anything about it, but my father, who was a white boy from Snohomish, Washington, he grew up seeing ghosts in his houses all the time in the places. So we called them ghosts, and he helped me by saying, "Oh, don't be afraid. Be curious." He was like, "Why don't you ask questions? Like, find out who they are and what do they want." And as a young girl, I mean, I first of all, no, thank you. You're kind of incapable of that. I was very scared, but that was the message that stayed with me. He made me feel like it was normal. So I thought everyone was seeing spirit. You know?
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, seriously, what an open-minded dad.
I know. It was incredible. So it really did help me, and it became a known thing. Girlfriends who would have a slumber party at my house would hear me talking to spirit or whatever, and then my dad and I would discuss it the next morning at breakfast as if it was normal, and they'd be like, "What is going on at Mayume's house?"
Oh my God. And so tell me, I mean, so obviously you're working as a medium now, and this has been something that's very, you've been growing up with, but when he was seeing spirit, was it embraced in his home as well?
That's a great question. They talked about it openly. He was the youngest of 5. They were very poor, and they used to move from house to house, just renting. And my grandmother was home, and they would have spirit encounters or ghosts, and they talked about it. They would be scared, and they would hear the footsteps, see the people. They'd find out, "Oh yes, that was my brother. You know, he's coming home every night." So he grew up in homes that had spirit.
Do you think that, your work now, doing what you do, and you have studied with me, you've studied with many people, but it's like the work that you are doing now, do you feel as though your dad has started to shape where you are right now? I mean, how amazing is that?
That is so funny. Yes, Lisa, see how you knew that. I think so. I think he was shaping me from a young age, just he thought it was cool. He thought it was awesome. He thought it was like, "Oh, wow, you can see things. What happened? What were you dreaming?" And so it was a great connection between the two of us. And it actually makes sense why now me coming into it, feels natural because it's been
Right.
happening my whole life. Yeah. I
Yeah,
just had
that's
to hone in. Yeah.
it's so incredible, and obviously growing up with it and dating. Didn't you find that dating was like one of these weird experiences that you're seeing dead people or something?
Yes. And so I'm sure my husband's going to listen to this. So yes, definitely. There's times where I'm yelling and saying, get the F out. Or, if I didn't like something or I'm like talking or I
No,
see things in my,
you were talking to the spirits, not the girl.
yes, yes. And he's going, you talking to me? So yeah, he was like, wait a second, what's going on? And he's from Boston and he would always say, Mayume, there's no one there. Like, I don't see anything. So it was and I remember going, come on, do you not see this light? The whole room would light up. And I'm like, do you really not see it? And he's like, nope, I see nothing. And so I thought, wow, this is so interesting. But it was really nighttime stuff would get kind of out of hand. I had visitors all the time, all the time.
Right. Wow. Do you feel as
Yeah.
though these visitors sort of like prepared you for what was going to happen later on in your life? Because we had a tragedy, which we'll talk about in a moment, but do you feel as though spirit was leading you up to help you with this?
Well, yes, as we reflect, yes, now that looking back, and here I just thought I could just see spirit. I had some friends, close friends that knew, so I would pull cards for friends. I would kind of talk, but I didn't really connect with spirit. I just knew they would show up, tell me things.
Mm.
I knew I was having downloads, but in hindsight, I'm like, they were preparing me. They would line up almost like at a doctor's office, Lisa. I'd see a line of usually old people
Mm.
looking at me like open, open, open. And I'd be like, I don't know you people. Get out of here. Leave me alone. I want to sleep. But when I finally did step into psychic mediumship work, like literally proclaiming this, they started to leave me alone at night.
Wow. What did you do beforehand? What was the day job?
Oh my God. I worked in television and radio.
Okay.
To be honest with you, yeah, I worked at television stations in San Francisco, Sony Pictures, Como Television. Yeah, I was in. Yeah.
So communication has always been a speciality.
Ah,
If we
yes,
look at it, we're
yes,
looking at
yeah.
mass media, we're looking in communication, we're looking at TV, and now you're actually making the communication between this world and the next. Communication is
Oh
massive,
my God.
obviously.
Look at what you just did there. Yes. I didn't
This
even
is
think about
psychic.
that,
I
Lisa. I
know.
didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So obviously,
Wow.
deeper messaging and core messaging. And I think, what we're trying to do, creating any form of TV show or anything to do with the general public is all communication. And it's being able to articulate this. But when we talk about forgiveness, and we'll talk about this, your dad was murdered. Your dad was murdered by a woman
A
and
girl.
by a
A
girl.
girl. A
And
girl.
you took the initiative, and we'll talk about how you took the initiative in a moment, but you took the initiative to go into a prison to face the woman or the girl that killed your dad. What was that like?
Well, it was scary. There was resistance there, but there was this pull that I needed to do this, not for her. I made that very clear. The only way I could do this, it was for me. It
Mm-hmm.
was strictly for me and my life. I was at a standstill. I was stuck. I was absolutely traumatized by his murder. She was a 15-year-old girl at the time, 15, and had, yes, shot and stabbed him several times. And so there was a lot of angst and anger. And to face her, I knew and this is kind of before I really proclaimed that I was a medium, but I knew that I had to see her soul. I knew that I had to see her eyes. I had to be in space with her to feel her. Then I knew that I would know whether or not she was going to hurt more people because she was going to
Mm.
be released. And that is what sent me spiraling, is she was going to be released early. There was a new law in Washington state that changed this. She was not supposed to get out of prison until I was 75 years old. And I was fine with that.
Wow, of
And
course.
so, yes, so everything changed. And when that happened, I spiraled. knowing, and I did everything. I don't know if you knew this, Lisa. I did everything in my power to stop her from being released before I
Right.
met with her.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, most people would feel that way. And when we look at this 15-year-old girl who, how old was she when you sat with her?
She was 37
So she'd
or
already
30,
been,
39, something.
yeah, so she'd already been in there a length of time. You know,
Exactly.
looking into the eyes of this woman who had murdered your father quite brutally, and seeing the soul of you. You and I have talked about it, how we always want to hate that person, but you found like this immediate forgiveness, or you found something. What was that like?
So it was, I needed to go in there. My intention was to release her. I could not say the words forgive for a
Mm,
very long time. I could
mhm,
actually not say those words. The word was release her from me. And so that was my intention, to do so, in hopes that if she knew that the family of who she murdered forgave her or released her or could come to peace with her, that maybe that would help her on her journey. So I had this intention. What I didn't know is that I would be crying the whole flipping time. I mean, I cried
mm,
from the drive all the way up, but just waterworks coming out of my eyes. I would even look at my husband and be like, I'm not crying. That's water. I can't stop the water.
mm,
It's like my body was already releasing.
mm,
So I get to the prison. I sit in this small conference room. I have the two facilitators who I've been working with for months now, 6 months to prepare for this. And I'm crying. I can't breathe. I'm nervous. And we're waiting for her to walk in. And when she walks in, she's crying too.
wow.
And our eyes did, I would have to say, locked, actually. Like once I looked at her, I couldn't stop looking at her. And we were both crying. She sat down. And then, I mean, so much of it is a blur now, but we just started talking.
Wow.
I started talking, lots of questions.
Wow. Let's go back to the moment of your dad's murder, if we can. What was the motive? What led up to this? Because you did also say to me that there was also somebody else who was also intuitive, who escaped that situation unscathed, unharmed. And it was somebody who was a passerby or witness. Tell us the actual build up to this moment.
So it was our understanding there was a group, 4 teenagers, that were hiding up on this mountain, Mount Pilchuck in Washington. They were camping on the river and hiding out because she, the girl, had stabbed someone else the week before.
Mm,
So they were hiding out. And she was with these other teenagers. There was a 19-year-old boy who was kind of the leader of, and apparently they were a couple. She was 15, very influenced by him. And so when my dad, this is Mother's Day weekend, the Saturday before Mother's Day, he and my mother got into an argument.
mhm,
And this is part of the story too, where they were trying to decide what to do. And he said, fine, I'm going to go fishing. And she said, fine, don't come back.
oh,
And so I know it was very, so he went fishing. Now he's on his way home. He's packed up. He's on his way home. And what these teenagers needed or wanted was to get out. They wanted to leave the campsite now. They wanted to get a ride into town. Why? I don't know, but they wanted a ride. And the 19-year-old said, who wants to do it? Gave them a knife or a gun and said, get us a car. And there was a 16-year-old boy who first said, I can't do that. And so the girl, 15-year-old girl, said, I'll do it. And so she pretended she was in distress and flagged my dad down as he drove on his way home. And of course, my dad, being who he was, a Vietnam veteran, a mentor to teenagers, of course, he would pull over for a young girl who needed help. As soon as he pulled over, she got in and shot him twice
mm,
with a gun, and then took a knife and stabbed him brutally, particularly over the jugular vein, trying to kill him
wow.
instantly. And so the only reason we know is for the truck,
Right. Wow.
which we think that he would have given them a ride into town. They
Hmm.
didn't have to kill him.
And so there was a passerby that
Oh, yes, yes, sorry.
your dad had intuitively and sent messages to. So what happened at that point?
So the wild story about this, of course, that is what happened. And after she killed him, they're in the middle of trying to figure out what to do with his body. She's sitting on top of his body. The truck is in the middle of this gravel road. Both doors are open wide, and we know this because of the witness. Now there's a couple that are on the mountain and they are driving out. And the woman gets out of the car. It was she and her fiance, and she sees them and she's thinking they need help. So she gets out of the car and says, "Hey, do you guys need help?" And as she starts to approach, and they're going, "No, no, no, we're fine. The car, we can't get the car started." And she's saying, she's looking at my dad, and his face is kind of scrunched in the seat. And she's like, "Is he okay? I don't think he can breathe." And the girl says, "No, he's fine. He's just sick. He just doesn't feel good." And she said, then she saw the gun. And at the time she saw the gun, she heard a voice in her ear, very deep and very powerful. And she believes it was my dad's voice that said, "I am gone. You need to get out of here."
Wow.
So it was a very powerful, she said she heard it so quickly, so big, and then realized what was going on. And so she just slowly backpedaled and said, "Okay, well, good luck. We hope you guys get out of there," and got into the car. And then they went straight to the police department to report it.
And then obviously I can imagine the chaos and everything went on in that period of time. But during that moment, the gift that you had had of communicating with your dad, how did that impact you, knowing that you could speak to spirit and now you could speak to your dad? Or could you?
It took so many years because, again, this relationship I had with my dad, I was the oldest and the only daughter. And we were very close. He used to always joke, "Lisa, when I die, I'm going to play jokes on you. I'm going to prove to you that we don't die. I'm going to mess with you." And so I think we always kind of knew that he would do that. And so now here he has passed. It is very traumatic. We're all going through massive grief. And I do see incensed spirit. So I kept waiting or trying to feel him or sense him, and I couldn't. And it took many years before he did. And it was through another medium that I communicated with him. And through that message, he came to me and said, "I hope that you find it in your heart to release the girl." And so that is what sent me on that journey to meet with her. I thought, okay, my dad wants me to forgive her because I heard that he already had. And so I still didn't realize that I was a medium at this point. I knew that I saw spirit, but I didn't think of it in that way of talking to them. And all I wanted to do was talk to my dad. And it took a long time.
Do you actually think that most mediums, and I speak obviously as myself as being a medium, but do you feel as though most mediums have had some form of traumatic event to actually unleash their mediumship? I mean, because this was definitely traumatic, but do you feel as though this actually helped you unlock your mediumship to another level? I mean, because you often hear that.
Such a great question. I don't know. I think I was kind of on that path already. What this actually did, it stopped me first. I think
Mm.
I was headed that way. And then when this happened, I became very angry. I went right into low vibe. I went into down here with hate and anger. And I wanted to bring her down. I mean, I was doing petitions to make sure she wasn't getting that early release. I was meeting with the newspapers and going down to the board. I was doing everything. We're submitting letters. I went into a very deep, dark place.
Mm.
And so that moved me away from spirit, right?
Oh.
Way away. And even my husband said, "Mayume, this is not you. Like, what are you doing? You're giving her so much power over you." So it was through that medium that helped me with the message that changed my trajectory to bring me back. Because I'd even told spirit, like, "Leave me alone. I'm done with you. I didn't want any visitors anymore." I wanted to stop because I almost thought I don't believe in you anymore. I can't talk to my dad. How could you let this happen? So that tragedy brought me so far down. And what brought me back was spirit, was my dad's message. Archangel Michael came through to help me. And I think what happened was that tragedy. And then when I finally did connect with my dad, that is what blossomed, I think, my ability and my belief system more so.
And let me ask
But I had to
you,
go down. Yeah.
is she released now? Did she get released?
She did. After I met with her, she was
And how do you
released 2
feel?
months later.
How do you feel about that?
I I feel nothing. This is what's so great. I could not speak her name, see her name beforehand without feeling gross, disgusting,
Mm-hmm.
hate. After I met with her and did all that work, again, it wasn't overnight. It took 6 months of preparation to
Mm-hmm.
do this. I I have lifted all of that pain and all that anger away. So now I'm kind of in neutral, because
Right?
I wouldn't say that I like her. All right. I wouldn't say that I care
No?
about her life, but I feel nothing. I feel neutral. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very peaceful space
Mm-hmm.
right in the middle. Like it's okay. I feel neutral. Feel
Take me back to
nothing.
those 4 hours that you spent in prison with her. I'm curious. What are some of the things that you asked her?
Yeah, I had like 2 pages of questions. um, well, one, I made it very, very clear that I did not want to talk about that day. I already knew what happened.
Right.
Okay, I didn't want to relive it. I had questions about how she got there. How did you become capable of doing such a thing?
Mm.
And so we talked about her life, her upbringing, and then we talked about um, what her plan was if she was to be released. Because now I know in my mind that she's probably going to be released,
Right.
and I needed to know her plan.
Mm-hmm.
So my questions were based off before the event, and then after. Like, what will you do? How can you keep yourself from hurting other people?
Mm-hmm.
What have you done to help yourself be better?
Right. And were you satisfied with
Those,
those answers?
I would say yes. It's still kind of the unknown, because
Mm.
you can make plans and things happen. The 19-year-old is about to be released at the end of this month,
Wow.
actually. And yeah, we get all the letters. I wish they would stop coming, but yes, we always get notified. And one of the questions I asked her was, will you connect with him if he gets out? Like, what does
Mm.
that look like? Your relationship? Did you keep in touch?
Right.
And she said, no, of course not. But I, I can't put my energy there in
Right.
wondering what she's going to do.
Yeah. And you can't control that. When did she get
I
released?
can't. December of 2019.
Wow. So she's been released 5.5 years now. And, all we can hope is that she has changed her life and this impact has reshaped her life in hopefully the best.
I think so. Our meeting, she said that. She said, well, first of all, when she first came in and we were both crying, we sat down, and it's so awkward, Lisa. Like, what do you say? Hi, how's it going? What do you say? It was one of those, I'm looking at her and I don't know how to acknowledge her other than, hi, I'm Mayume. And she said, hi, I'm Gail. And she said, may I say something first before we begin? Because she always had to ask permission to speak, is kind of the thing. And I said, sure. And she just went right in. Before we start, I just want to tell you how deeply sorry I am for what I did.
Wow.
And she said, if I could take it back, I would. I've learned so much in my growth here. And I mean, she was 15 years old, and now she's a 39-year-old woman. So there was a
Right.
lot of growth. And I
Right.
had to believe and trust that she was working on herself, and hoping she had a support system when she got out.
Right. Exactly. No, obviously, not everybody has this luxury of escaping this, because there are some states that carry the death sentence. And if she would have been in a state of carrying the death sentence, how would you have felt at that point, knowing that she could have been facing that or would have been penalized in that way?
That's wow. I've never been asked that before. who I didn't want that. I didn't want her to
Mm-hmm.
die.
Of course.
I did want her to suffer. I'm going to be honest.
No, it's a true.
I,
It's a true thing.
I wanted her to suffer. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, death would have been, kind of easy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, what have you learned in this period of time with, this meeting with your dad, your father's perpetrator, and forgiveness? I mean, how has that shaped your life now since you've had this experience 6 years ago? I mean, how has it shaped your life between now and then?
I'll tell you this. I feel like if I could forgive this act of someone who, I mean, it was such a heinous, brutal crime, so vicious. And she called herself the angel of death. She boasted about it, which is so interesting that she would use that term, angel of death.
Mm,
Um, and the mother F wouldn't die. I mean, there was so much reasons for me to hate her. And I feel that me meeting her, that was all spirit led. I feel like my dad helped me get into a place so that I could release her, release that pain, and to better get me on a path that I could share my story to help others.
mm,
And being a medium now, I know firsthand if I'm sitting across from someone, I've got their hands in my heart. I always tell them I understand grief. And I
mm,
would not be here to help you through your grief if I didn't live it myself.
right.
Massive grief. And so there's this beautiful feeling of growth. And now honest to God, I feel like I could forgive anything. I feel like we're all one. We're all going to be okay. My dad, who was shot and stabbed, comes and sits in my readings now in the back in his flannel shirt, smoking a cigarette. And I'll be like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And it's usually because the sitter is going to have a father who's passed.
Wow.
And so I have this new relationship, and I feel blessed knowing that we're all going to be okay.
Mm. A lot of people might be sitting and watching this and saying, wow, you are a better person than they are because how would they find forgiveness? And I'm sure, obviously, you question that yourself, obviously. But what would you say to someone who is holding on to an issue, a situation that has shaped their life, and they are trying to find forgiveness, but they just can't? What would you say to them?
Uh, circumstances are different for everyone. I know from my learning, I really had to go within. I had to go deep within me and ask, how am I living? How
Hmm.
am I feeling? How has my life been? Am I feeling joy? I was in such pain and I didn't want to be in that anymore. So again, I would say to that person, don't do it for them. This isn't about forgiving them. And this is, everyone knows this and you hear this all the time. It's about your health. It's about your heart. It's about moving on for yourself. It's this, I did it selfishly. It was for me.
Hmm.
I needed this. So I think if you can kind of turn it around and say, I'm not going to forgive them. How could they? And condone what they're doing. It wasn't about her. It was so about me and my heart and my journey. And I
Right,
needed that.
right.
So I would say, if to kind of ask, how is it serving you? What, how is this hate or anger or not letting go serving you? And maybe start with something smaller, because I had to start with something really big. But
Right.
maybe, look at, where is there resistance in your life?
Hmm.
Because I always say, what we resist persists. There's a lesson there. So maybe look at the pockets in your life of where there's some resistance, see what you can do to let some of that go. And then maybe, yeah, but do it for yourself, for your soul.
I agree with this. I think it's a powerful space. I've been in a place where a very deep, deep hurt happened without an apology, without any form of, um, in my mind, I'm sorry's, and that's the most important thing for me. But there was a lot of shame on their part. But finding forgiveness without an apology is a really hard thing to do. And a lot of people would actually say, how do you do it? And in reality, you're right. It's not about the other person. It's now about forgiving the act and thinking, we can move beyond this, or I can move beyond this, or I know I can, that therefore leads another person. And therefore, I'm doing this for me. And it is always a selfish act. But yet, what we have been taught in life is not to be selfish. And I
Right.
think forgiveness is absolutely a selfish act. And it
It
needs to
has to
be.
be. It has to be.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
powerful. So, Mayume, you're writing a book on this. I mean, this is an incredible. You and I have talked many years about this, and it's an absolute joy to speak to you about this, because I think it's such a powerful story. But when we talk about your book, do you talk about the fact that you felt your dad in the prison room with you, or did he come in with any questions? I mean, do you talk about share? I mean, I don't know, I have so many questions here.
Oh yeah. Well, there is, I mean, there's so much magic that happened
Yeah.
in these years too from my dad. But I'm going to tell you, he was not in that room. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I wasn't aware if he was.
Okay.
I'm sure he was, but I was in such a weird, very human space
Hmm.
that I don't think I could have at all connected with spirit. I was so protective of my heart. I was so protective of me.
Right.
I was in such a dense, very weird, gross space. I
Mm.
think. So no, I didn't sense any of that. It was all the magic leading up to it, all the magic afterwards that
Right.
he would show up.
That's
I'm
incredible.
just, I mean, crazy stuff that you cannot imagine. So that my book is filled with a lot of the magic from my dad too. Yes, the book is not about the murder.
Right.
That is what catapulted all of this. There's a story before about my relationship with my dad, and then there's the whole after, you know.
Hmm. And do
And
you ever
yeah.
find that as a medium, you are, because we always find that whatever comes to us in these mediumship readings reflect our life, reflect the things and the trauma and the pain that we've been through. I mean, I
Yes.
can't imagine what your readings are like. I mean, seriously. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see a lot of guns and I mean, yeah, it's really wild. It's so, though that's one of the questions I always wanted to ask you when we're working together is I find I have that. I attract that. I think these souls know, like, I want Mayum to be my medium. So
Right.
I'm going to get you family members. You're going to call Mayum, and because she understands, right? So I get that. And I get a lot of mail. I get a lot of mails. I get a lot of
Mm.
mails. And I get a lot of suicide. It's a lot of really trauma. It's very interesting. It
Right.
is heavy. It's heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah,
That
we do. I
yes,
mean, I always say that what we get and what we deal with constantly is going to be reflecting, and what we've had to deal with, it's always reflected back in our readings. I get a lot of abuse. I do get a lot of suicides. I get a lot of cancer. Get a lot of
yes,
heavy, heavy,
yes.
heavy illness. And
Same.
it's just reflected on my own journey.
Yeah,
But I think it's very, very interesting here. So
it is.
I would love you to share something. People are listening to this podcast. What is the message that you would love everybody to take home with them?
Oh my God, I just heard my dad say it. um, this is so funny. It's we don't die.
Mm.
We don't die. And yes, uh, we have fear of death, right? We have fear of, I wouldn't say death, but maybe fear of dying. Like how am I going to die? Whether it's illness or suicide or by the hands of someone else. There's a lot of fear around that and trauma around that. But all I know now is no matter what, was we don't die. These souls, these beautiful souls of my dad, who was brutally murdered, are showing up smoking a cigarette saying, hey, how's it going? I'm good. It's so wild to me to make that connection. And so I do not fear death. Of course, I don't want any of when I love to suffer, but I know without a doubt that everything is going to be absolutely okay. And I can say that from my gut, my heart, my
Right.
soul. Everything's going to be okay.
And did your mum share the same feelings as you?
Oh, gosh, no.
Mm,
My mom hated her for a very long time, and I never told my mom that I went to the
wow.
prison. She would never understand.
Mm,
And I don't know if it's fortunate or not, but my mother suffers from very bad dementia, Alzheimer's right now. She does not know anything about my dad's murder, which is a blessing in disguise
mm,
that it has been removed from her mind, because she would talk about it every day.
yeah,
Yeah. So
that's
now I feel like she's in, that space, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think she's having conversations with my dad. But she did not know that I went to the prison. I never
wow.
told her.
Wow. I commend you for this whole story. I think it's powerful. I think your message is huge. Um, the one thing I've always seen about you, Mayume, is you show it with grace. And there's this graceful way, and you are so humble in this whole story. I just feel very honored that you were able to share it with me. Where can people find you? You know, if obviously they've gone through a reading or they've gone through a circumstance and they're like, Mayume's my girl, how can they find you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. It's such an honor to work with you always and to be here with you and thank you for allowing me to share this
Yeah.
story. I do want to share this story because I know it will help others release pain, to help forgive, get on a better path for themselves. I do a
Mm,
lot of soul work. So you could find me. It's mayumecarelli.com. So it's my first last name.com. And there you can book a reading. You can book soul sessions. I do angel healing. Also, I work with the archangels. So it's really about healing the soul. That is
mm.
mainly what I'm about.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, I love it.
Mayume, thank you for joining us. We'll put all the links, guys, to Mayume's details below. But I think it's really important that you take whatever part of the message that you take today away with you, whether it's forgiveness, whether it is being humble, whether it is being graceful, whatever it is. I hope you find in your heart that there's an inspiration here. Um, we don't have to go around with hatred. Forgiveness is all about us. It's allowing us to be able to show up in our life in the way that we need to. And I love the message that Mayume's father has, is that we never die. We're always with us and they're around. So
That's right. We don't die.
we don't.
Yeah. Everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. So thank you all for joining me on Hope, Healing and Transformation. I will see you all again next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you, but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.